Well, hello, that's me again, and I'm getting better with each day. And I think so I can return more or less back to normal tempo of the operation, so to speak, and record my comments and videos more often. But let's start with few points of interest for today. And I will start, of course, with the event which kinda by now seems to be fairly routine, but it's huge nonetheless. And it is the fact that the 3M22 Zirkon missile, hypersonic weapon with the range of 1,000 kilometers, at least officially, I think so it's probably longer, but and speeds of Mach 9 plus, is officially accepted as a standard weapon system for the surface carriers of Russian fleet. And I think so the first three Admiral Gorshkov class frigates and the first Project 2385 corvette will be armed already with it, and if not already, I'm sorry. And that pretty much marks the end of the naval warfare as we know it. And I've been on the record about this for a long time. And here's the problem. And I encounter this problem in my blog constantly. People begin to write to me and post and say, oh, but here's the United States working on the hypersonics. Yeah, it's lagging, but you know, United States is going to be catching up pretty soon. People do not understand, sadly, the subject matter here. And including, by the way, some American scientists, quote unquote, with PhDs in physics, who begin to wax military technological and say, oh no, you know, it's just a Mach 9 weapon which we will have soon and it's going to be just fine. Well, apart from the fact that the United States encounters a huge issue with the aeroballistic program and cannot still kind of nail the process of the detachment of the aeroballistic missile, hypersonic missile from the carrier. And we're talking about mock-up, we're not talking about a real missile yet. And the issue is that there are hypersonic and there are hypersonic weapons. Zircon is what United States doesn't have and will not have for a long time. And the question is not just in the fact that it is fully powered hypersonic missile. That means it flies from A to B, not as a ballistic or glide, quasi-ballistic or a glide vehicle. It is constantly under the powered flight. People say it's scramjet engine. Yeah, it's probably scramjet engine, but much more comes to it than just merely scramjet engine. And especially you need the completely new types of the fuels, which are very high impulse fuels. If you want to know what impulse is, you can look it up on the even Wikipedia if you want to. It's basically changing the momentum and speaking in the simplest terms. But for example, Russia developed dieseline, which is the fuel specifically. It's a very high impulse fuel, which is specifically for hypersonic missiles, and that's what is used. I'm not talking about other things like materials and of course the control systems, including the seekers, which are probably multi-channel seekers, which from the radar to infrared to what have you, optical, other optronic systems, which allow to seek and capture target at the finishing or terminal segment of the flight. And that is the issue which people do not understand. Zircon is a completely animal on its own, in its own right. It's a completely different thing. It's different from even Kinjal, which is aeroballistic missile, or it's different from any other gliders or whatever is being developed today, including in the United States. The United States will get eventually its probably glider vehicle including probably for the weapon systems they talking about, which is the Dark Eagle, which I said it will be most likely enlarged motor from the SM-3 missile with some kind of vehicle stuck on the top of it. But Zirkon, as well as the development and technology of the high-speed anti-shipping missiles, the United States simply doesn't have it. It never had it to start with. And you have to remember the issue of the 1995, when U.S. Navy and Lockheed Martin, actually, they were buying from Russia MS-31, which was the drone version of the famous Russian very old 70s and early 80s missile X-31, which is the Mach 3.5 anti-shipping missile, air-launched. And United States was buying it in 1995, 1996 from Russia, just to use them as a drone, as the targets for the emerging SM-6 and other weapon systems trying to intercept the high supersonic missiles. The United States tried to develop the supersonic anti-shipping missile. It failed. The missile turned out to be not only it was underperforming grossly, but it turned out to be literally made out of gold, if not platinum. And what do you expect? I mean, so now anybody who tells me that the country which completely abandoned and skipped on the this important, ever important technological development of the high supersonic anti-shipping missiles can jump into the hypersonic anti-shipping missiles, especially being able to control them in their plasma cocoon. Well, I'm sorry, it doesn't work like this. Simple as that. And that is why even the most what we know about the U.S. development of the hypersonic, semi-ballistic, or quasi-ballistic, hypersonic missiles, much of it was taken from what was known as Program Holod, which NASA and other American firms, obviously defense firms, were doing in Russia when Russia was sticking the number of the vehicles at the booster of the very old Soviet air defense system S-200, and was accelerating them on the power flight for several seconds and accelerating them into the excess of Mach 6 or 7, whatever it was, I don't remember right now. But that's pretty much it. This is pretty much data set United States had from that point, from that time. After that, it was completely on its own, and as the result, we know the United States is lagging pretty much in every hypersonic category, but in terms of something like Zirkon, it's not nowhere near. It simply is not there at all. I mean, and I don't know when it will be there, if it will be there. While in reality, we already have the newer version of 3M22 Zirkon, which is Zirkon M, 3M22M, which will have the range of in excess of 1,500 kilometers and velocity in excess of Mach 12. You just cannot intercept this missile. And that pretty much changes the whole balance of power in the sea and basically makes the whole number of the separate forces, be that carrier or large combatants, if not obsolete, absolutely removing them into the niche position, which is good only to probably bomb some third world countries which have nothing to defend themselves against. That's about it. In the real sea control, sea denial situation, I mean, how you even defend against it from this distance? Then, of course, Russia will start placing the Zirkon, most likely it will be already Zirkon M, on submarines in 2024. And that is a major, major development. And that brings us to the other fact of which everybody talks about, and it's normal to be to have your attention focused on that. It is, of course, about Russian ultimatum and the fact that United States and combined West, as was expected, did not accept Russia's propositions, quote unquote. In reality, the ultimatum regarding the security configuration Russia is interested in seeing in Europe, and especially NATO, moving out to where it was in '97. And I want to mention here Professor Michael Mandelbaum and late Stephen Cohen, who already in '97, by the time Clinton was including Poland and Hungary and all that Eastern European former Warsaw Pact countries into NATO, of course in violation of the promises which were given, which is nothing new, they were talking about a very simple fact that, okay, NATO moves to the east, well, Russia will start moving to the east too. I mean, not geographically, obviously, but I mean, geopolitically. And guess what? Since Russia will get some kind of what she wanted from the get-go, either written or very well fixed and recorded publicly, decline of the combined West, NATO, United States, to talk and give any guarantees to Russia, the next phase will start. And Russian diplomats, they talk already about the military response. What will be the military response? Well, I will start with the simple thing. Next week, I believe, I'm not sure, you can look it up, the president of Iran visits Moscow. It's a huge, big deal. And then, of course, 3 weeks after that, Vladimir Putin flies to Beijing for the opening of the Olympic Games. Being a special guest and being a personal friend of Comrade Z. And what would I expect? I would expect, don't quote me on that, but I think so, one of the steps which we might witness there will be announcement. It's possible. I'm not saying it's necessarily very highly probable, but this is one of the options, and that will be the declaration of official formal military alliance between Russia and China, which will shake Europeans to their core, including the United States. Because obviously, when you look at how Russia aids China in terms of the military technology, including the building of the early warning system of the missile attack, which is unprecedented in itself, that will mean that China will be the recipient of some, not all, but some advanced Russian technologies, which will pretty much reset or turn to zero any American attempts to control or confront China within the first island chain. If you have something like, let's say, a lighter version of Zirkon 3M22, which even can have the range of 500 kilometers, which will be probably provided to China, even that, it just basically removes any kind of naval force in the area, because you cannot defend. It will be sunk immediately in the case of real war starting. And this is just one of the options, and of course we don't know what arrangements will be made with Iran when President of Iran arrives to Moscow. But there is no doubt that Russia will be creating what she says, counter threats. And modern arsenal of Russia allows to create some really serious counter threats, which will have a huge impact. And of course, let's not forget, I mean, Russia doesn't care about Nord Stream 2. I mean, if somebody like from State Department still wants to shut it down, hey, I mean, it's between them and Europeans. If Europeans want to go hungry and die from freezing, hey, it's not Russia's business. The gas prices already allow you basically get everything back, investment on Nord Stream 2, and gas prices still remain extremely high, and they will grow again pretty time soon. So if Europeans want that, hey, let them deal with the United States. In the end, they are United States lapdogs, so let them deal with that. So, and the point is that, which I want to go further with another, so to speak, item on our today's short agenda, is the fact that everybody now discusses. I mean, it's been on a number of news outlets in the United States, and it made it to Russia. It's a former bureaucrat from Obama administration, Evelyn Farkas. In reality, she is Farkas because she's 100% Hungarian, and her family is from Hungary. And her father is the novelist, and she's probably from what is called the artsy family. And that's what she basically proposed, this lady who never saw any military technology and doesn't understand what war is, and has degree in government, whatever that is. And she was the deputy defense secretary, some advisor for some most likely BS on the public matters, and specialist, quote unquote, in Eastern Europe. And being a Hungarian, we can very safely assume that she was brought up with the fanatical hatred of Russians, and as many people in the State Department, which is infested with the elements with the Ukrainian, Russian Jewish, or any other Jewish and Eastern European backgrounds, who basically do exist in State Department to drive their personal vendettas. And same with this Evelyn Farkas, who offered NATO and West to be ready for conflict with Russia. This is not the first time some utterly unqualified and corrupt and uneducated person from the US political establishment offers to fight Russia. It is difficult to explain, and I am on the record, and I stress it all the time. It is difficult to explain for a person who went through the US Ivy League humanities programs, be that political science, be that law, be that government, whatever, international relations, that they do not understand what real modern war is and how it's gonna look like if they want this war, even if assuming that it will stay within the conventional limits, conventional framework. I'm not talking about nuclear. And how can you explain it? It's like, I don't know even what kind of analogies I can provide here. It's impossible. It's like explaining to the kindergarten child the basics of the integral or differential calculus. I mean, how you explain it, because people do not understand that how complex and how deadly modern warfare is. And they do not understand that even in conventional way, if whatever the force NATO, as I already state all the time, many times I wrote books on that, no matter what conventional force the NATO will try to put within the 1,500 kilometers range from Russian borders, I mean, it's going to end bad one way or another. Targeting is not that difficult for that kind of force, especially a force which really doesn't have serious air defense. NATO doesn't have serious air defense capable to deal with the salvo of the high-precision, long-range standoff weapons, especially high-velocity weapons. And of course, in the end, even when we go back to our, so to speak, negotiations, quote unquote, in Geneva and between in Russian NATO Council, it's the fact that no matter what you say, and Russians are very sincere when they say they don't want to invade Ukraine. I mean, why? I mean, but capability-wise, and Russia still retains and will increasingly have it more capability to basically break up Ukraine within 24 hours, and that will be it. And the question here is not that Russia will be able to do it militarily. Fact is, who knows, LDNR, the Donbas republics may suddenly, quote unquote, obtain some really serious weapon systems and huge boost in the personnel, but Ukraine will be wiped out from the map as we know it, and after that, I mean, let the West deal with the Western Ukraine, whatever they want to do with it. I'm pretty sure Poles and Hungarians have their own view on that matter. But Russia can do that. She doesn't want to, because once she will do it by the basically right of the victor. She will have to take those very many hostile people and this basically dumpster on her balance and fix it. Well, it is what it is, but if it comes down to it, Russia will do it, and guess what it will be? It will be a reputational catastrophe for the United States, because no matter what United States wants to do today, and don't quote me personally on that. I'm talking about Colonel Douglas McGregor speaking to Tucker a few days ago at Fox. United States simply has no force. It doesn't have any resources to fight war with Russia, even under the most favorable conditions. It's just not the force which can fight the modern peer-to-peer conventional war. And it's not only that the fact that the United States will be able to accumulate force enough to fight Russia. And I can speculate here, and we can actually play with the calculations in terms of what force will be required to quote-unquote defeat Russia, whatever that means, because we will need to define the political objectives for this defeat, or to announce this defeat. But the point is, I mean, United States is still the armed forces which are stuck in the 20th century. It is still advanced force. It has some really amazing enablers, but weapons-wise, it's not that great, honestly. And what do we have? We have the launch of LAMs. That's the only thing the United States has, or maybe JASSMs. That's about it. Easy prey for the advanced and deep echelon air defense system. And then what are you going to do when you cannot literally lift your air force off the ground? So we've been through this before. I talked about this. And that's when we go back to both Geneva and Evelyn Farkas' desire to fight Russians, we have to understand a lot of it is desperation. And, of course, the fact that U.S. policies primarily, internally and to a degree foreign policy, are done for the sake of PR. And that is why nothing works. Because when you do things just to show off or just to provide some kind of basis for your re-election, you inevitably lose the horizon of planning, and you inevitably make mistakes. As we can see ourselves, including the recent article of this Mr. Marsh, who still dreams about, not dreams, he's discussing the possibility of the United States splitting into several states. And I wrote my opinion about this idiocy and what he offers. But let's face it, we do have still not a majority, actually, but what we call a radical left. We're talking about probably roughly 15-20 million people who are literally insane, and they do not like white Christian males, especially Southerners, and they still think that they are smart. They are not, and that they are educated. No, American intellectual quote-unquote elite is very uneducated, and they want to split the country because they do not want to live with those brutes like me or any other male or female who really care that, hey, this country better stay, together. But we're looking at people who are so-called intellectual elites. Again, I stress, they are not intellectual, they're extremely badly educated. But yeah, if you look at Seattle, you look at New York, you look at Chicago, you look at San Francisco, this is where they are all concentrated, and they drive this insane agenda. And why it is insane, I already wrote a post on that, and obviously those people do not understand really what they are offering or what they are dreaming about. Because you know what? Their dreams or wishes may come true at some point of time, and believe me, they will be very unhappy. But it will be for the other discussion, and I'm getting somewhat better, again, as I said, health-wise, and I think so I have more energy to start to produce more. So as always, I would ask you to subscribe and support me on Patreon, and again, The time is coming when I will be dealing with more advanced features of my video editors, and I will be able to also thank my patrons, but still support me on Patreon and subscribe, and I will talk to you later. All the best for you guys. Bye bye.